In 1957, an American psychologist named Leon Festinger made a discovery that changed how we understand the human mind. He observed that people feel strong inner discomfort when their thoughts, beliefs, or actions contradict each other. He called this tension cognitive dissonance. His classic example was the smoker. The smoker knows that smoking damages their health and continues to smoke. To reduce the inner tension, they tell themselves, "My grandfather smoked until 90. Everyone dies of something anyway." They do not change the habit. They change the meaning. Festinger was right, but he was incomplete because he described the symptom. He did not describe the cause. Today I want to show you something that psychology has not yet named. The real mechanism behind cognitive dissonance, and why understanding it is the beginning of genuine freedom. Here is what psychology missed. Cognitive dissonance does not begin in the mind. It begins in the subconscious. The subconscious is the operating system of the human being. It manages everything: breathing, heart rate, hormonal responses, reflexive reactions, and equally, thought patterns and emotional patterns. Everything that enters the subconscious is accepted without judgment. It does not know logic. It knows only the energy of trust. From the moment of birth, information from trusted sources is written into it. The words of parents, the voice of teachers, the prayers of priests, the commands of superiors, the words of politicians, the news from screens. Each of these repeated pieces of information becomes a code. Over time, a person no longer knows what is their own perception of the world and what is an implanted program. And here is the key. When a person then hears information from a source their subconscious does not trust, they react. Not with reason, with energy. Tension arrives, resistance, mockery, withdrawal. Not because the information is wrong, but because it was not delivered from a trusted source. And the opposite is equally true. When the same subconscious receives a false piece of information from a source it trusts, there is no dissonance. Even if it is an obvious lie, it is accepted without resistance, because the channel of trust bypasses reason. This is the real mechanism. The subconscious does not evaluate content, it evaluates trust. Let me show you this mechanism in 3 examples from the world we live in today. The first, television. When a television program that a person has trusted since childhood repeats a claim, most people accept it without verification. When the same information is stated by an independent source, resistance is triggered. The subconscious says, if it is not on television, it does not exist. The moment information does not arrive through a trusted channel, discomfort is triggered, and the person labels it as untruth. The second, political belonging. People believe their party is honest, the opposing side is corrupt. When evidence of corruption on their own side appears, they relativize it or justify it. That's just how everyone does it. Better ours than theirs. This is not moral collapse. This is the defensive mechanism of the ego protecting its own identity. The third is the most important. When an unknown independent source states something true, the subconscious immediately rejects it, not because it is false, but because the channel does not yet have permission. But when the same information receives confirmation from a trusted source, a politician, a media outlet, a scientific institution, the perception changes instantly. In the subconscious, the untrusted source is transformed into a trusted one. The same information that yesterday triggered resistance today becomes truth, because it received the seal of the system. This is one of the key mechanisms by which the matrix maintains its monopoly over truth. People do not believe content. They believe the permission to believe. The history of humanity is the history of the management of trust. Religions were the first to define truth. They created intermediaries between the human being and God. Faith became control. Rulers and emperors took over divine authority. By the will of God, they decided what was right and what was not. Whoever doubted was a heretic. The mechanism of trust became a political mechanism of fear. The scientific age created a new church, the Church of Reason. Dogmas became formulas, prophets became scientists. A new symbol of trust was created: the white coat, the laboratory, the diploma. And again, the human being moved away from their own inner sense of truth. Tesla was a genius, until he clashed with the interests that controlled energy and profit. When he was no longer useful to the system, he was pushed into the shadows. His role was rewritten to Edison, because Edison was a trusted source of capital and the state. Decades later, when the same circles sensed that Tesla's image could create a new myth and market value, he was once again approved as a visionary. The same mechanism operates today. Until a message arrives through a channel that the masses recognize as safe, truth does not exist. That is why this book will not be heard until it reaches the ears of those who carry the status of authority. When someone from those circles confirms it, it will no longer be dangerous thinking. It will be a profound analysis of the human psyche. The content will not have changed, only the channel. The reversal happens when a person recognizes that the discomfort they feel in the face of new information is not an attack from the outside, but the resistance of an inner subconscious program. When they understand that the conflict is not between ideas, but between truth and an implanted code, liberation begins. Consciousness then recognizes for the first time that the subconscious is not the enemy. It is a perfect mechanism of the Creator, a tool given to protect stability. But the system hijacked this automatic function and turned it against the human being. Through trust, it rewrote the inner codes. When a person understands this, they begin to redirect the channel of trust, away from external authorities toward the inner sense of truth. Consciousness and the heart connect. Discomfort becomes a compass. When you no longer flee from it, but listen to it, the program begins to dissolve by itself. That is the moment when a person first hears the voice of the real self, the one that is not programmed, but always present. Cognitive dissonance is not a human error. It is a doorway to knowledge. It is the moment when the worlds within and without meet and demand honesty. The next time you feel resistance to a new idea, stop. Do not ask, "Is this true?" Ask, "Who is telling me this?" And, "Why does my subconscious not give this source permission?" Because when you can ask that question, you are no longer inside the program. You are watching it. And that is the beginning of freedom.